This weekend on the original Rochester Press Box.
I'm Steve Hausmann from the B Morning Coffee Club. When we get to our NFL picks, I'm going to pick a team I hate.
I'm Dan Fetes. I'm not John DiTullio, but I'm playing him on TV, and I'm going to take a shot at the NCAA.
And I'm Mike Catalana. I'll tell you how the New York Yankees broke my heart 40 years ago.
I'm Bill Pucko, remembering the 1968 Detroit Tigers. Join us this week on the original Rochester Press Box. Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us for the original Rochester Press Box. Bill Pucko with you, joined by Dan Fetes, who's sitting in once again for John DiTullio.
Big shoes to fill. Got to get my picks right this week.
All right. Mike Catalana, 13 WHAM News. Welcome back.
My picks are so bad, Johnny Carson, you would say, how bad? They're so bad, I'm tied with you now.
How many people remember who Johnny Carson is anymore?
Well, sorry.
You made a Johnny Carson reference. Very nice. Steve Hausmann remembers. Hausmann, one of our favorite guests, joining us from the B Morning Coffee Club. Welcome back.
We have to make picks?
You know the drill.
I do.
Well, look, the first thing we're going to talk about is the World Series, and in a general sense, it's not sort of a game-to-game and who's going to win thing, but the World Series has taken on sort of a whole different look. The wild card changed it, when it came in, and then the best of one. And this year we've got the Giants playing the Royals, which is not an especially attractive matchup. But this is what we've asked for, isn't it, Steve?
It is the two wild card teams this year. Two of the wild card teams. And I remember, it can be done. The Bills won a Super Bowl coming off a wild card. I think they didn't win a Super Bowl.
I was going to say, that's breaking news.
I picked them. But they did get to a Super Bowl coming off a wild card. I've enjoyed the series so far. I am waiting to see, things switch a little bit, but I've enjoyed it so far.
That's a cost. It's like, I think we all embraced expanding the playoffs initially, but the cost is that the World Series suffers, doesn't it?
Well, I think it does, because it doesn't have that idea that it's the two best teams all year. It does become maybe more of the two hottest teams all year. But what baseball does not have that football has is the matchup in the biggest event does not really matter that much in the Super Bowl. Yeah. It does in baseball. People, if you're going to grab those other people, and I'm not talking about casual fans, I am talking about baseball fans. If you're going to grab baseball fans, it still helps to have some stars. And I don't think either of these teams really are the ones trotting out the biggest stars.
So why do you think that changed, Danny?
I don't know, but I couldn't agree with Mike more. All day I knew the baseball was on, and then it got to be like 10 o'clock, and I was like, oh yeah, I got to see what the game's going on. Because you're right, it doesn't have that sexy matchup. These are two teams that, we all thought that the wild card was going to be a disadvantage. And opposite, it's been, Kansas City's comeback in the 8th inning at Oakland. And you see them, the Giants going into Pittsburgh, hitting a grand slam, Bumgarner pitch as well. And that's been the momentum that's powered them through the postseason.
But it isn't just that. You take, like Mike said, the two most innocuous NFL teams, put them in the Super Bowl, we'll watch in record numbers.
Yeah.
But it matters in baseball who's in it.
The problem for me is working early in the morning. I'm in bed at 10 o'clock, so I'm listening on the radio to see who won, and I think that's kind of sad. I want to stay up for the entire game, but I can't stay up till midnight.
Then we came up with some statistics how the game has changed too. Madison Bumgarner has started 5 of San Francisco's 11 playoff games, and it's not the way the game is played 162 games out of the year. They changed the rules for the World Series.
It is. It's been a unique circumstance the way it has. You would have thought it would have been a huge disadvantage to the Giants start their ace in the one-game playoff, which they had to do, and they survived. And then the downside is you only get him once in the next series. And somehow the way it's worked out, some to their credit, too, because they've been able to move on quickly. He's been able to pitch such a huge percentage of their games. It has hidden what is not a great depth in their starting rotation. It's just really strong at the top.
You don't like Jake Peavy?
You don't like Jake
I don't.
Hudson or the guy who follows him. Right. And the other thing is that the Royals had a 6-day break.
Yeah.
Well, the last time they had a 6-day break was before spring training began.
And you get a 6-day break and you throw out Big Game James with a 7 postseason ERA, and he goes out and can't go 3 innings. He's struggled in both of his starts and hasn't gotten past the 5th. And you talk about what Bumgarner's done. He's gone 7+ innings in all 5 of his postseason starts. Yeah. No other pitcher in postseason this year has done it twice.
No, it's definitely changed. It's sort of a reactionary to it, I guess. But all of a sudden, the expanded playoffs and the wild card doesn't look so great in this World Series. We have our football picks. It's the Buffalo Bills playing at the New York Jets this week. We'll be back with the original Rochester Press Box. Welcome back to the original Rochester Press Box. Bill Pucko with you. Mike Catalana, we always go to you first looking at the Buffalo Bills week. They're at the New York Jets, and they are 3-point underdogs to a 1-6 team.
Yeah, I think in this case it's unique circumstances. The Jets are 1-6. I thought they played really well against the Patriots and hung in there. And normal teams, you lost 6 in a row, you know you're done, start to quit. These guys love Rex. They just love, they really do. And I think Rex is on a short leash here, at least by the end of the year. So they're not going to quit and not play for him. And as far as the Bills are concerned, we're now a week away from that game against the Vikings. And now all you have to do is just look in the standings and say they won. Because you don't want to really review any of the game. I joked that if you watched a replay of the game and you knew who won, you'd still thought they were going to lose by the end because they looked so poor in the game. But they got the win. I think the Jets will come out fired up in the game today. I think they'll play hard for Rex. I think Harvin injects a little bit in there. And I don't like the Bills on the road at the Jets. They don't seem to play well at the Meadowlands. I think the Bills will play better than they did last week. And I'm going to take the Bills to cover. But they're going to lose the game 20-19.
Wow.
Close game.
What do you think, Stevie?
Why can't you just look at it as, well, maybe the Bills learned how to win last week? Something they could never do with E.J. Manuel. I mean, it was a horrible game. Come on, it was a waste of time.
Catch-22, you know, the big finish and everything and how exciting that was at the end. I fell asleep and I missed most of the fourth quarter because the rest of the game was so bad.
Well, the Bills won, by the way.
But they did win a close game with E.J. Manuel earlier
but
this year at the Bears.
That's true.
Yeah.
But I think that, I think I'm going to be positive. I've been doubtful about the Bills, but I think they can just ride this into a victory. I'm going to take the points and think they're going to win.
Danny.
I'm a big Tim Tebow fan, so you know I'm all about playing crappy for 58 minutes and then pulling a win out.
Yeah.
So you know I'm all for it. A win's a win, and you can't take that away. And they're hard to come by. They played well, but it was an ugly win, and it's nothing that you can really be proud of or be bragging about after the win.
Sure you can. They marched down the field when they had to.
But where was that all game?
It doesn't matter.
You know what the best stat from that game was, Bill? I think it was an 80-yard drive for a touchdown, and Orton threw for like 110 yards on the drive.
With the penalties and the sacks
and everything kept moving back. You're right, they did win the game. Please don't bring up Tebow again.
I had to contact the powers that be. John and I are taking the Bills.
John and I.
Are taking the Bills.
The picks count on John's side.
Exactly.
The crew has taken the Jets -3, and I'm going to go along with the same thing. I don't, it just feels bad. I take more away from the way the Bills played the first 58 minutes than they did in the last 2 in that game. All right, another game, Mike.
My picks have been atrocious, ugly. So I have to stick with that theme and go with the ugliest game of the week, which is Cleveland taking on Oakland. Oakland hasn't won yet. For some reason, they've been competitive since they made a change. I am going to go with Oakland getting the points in what should be an awful football game.
Awful football.
They're getting 7, I think, in the game. Cleveland will probably win, but I'm going to take Oakland.
What do you like?
I'm going to give a 6.5 and take New England over the Chicago Bears. I think, the Bears have drawn everybody in the AFC East. They beat the Jets, but they lost to the Bills, they lost to the Dolphins, and now you're playing the best team in the AFC East. The Pats, I think, have it together now. They're number 1 against the rush. Passing defense is a little iffy, but Jay Cutler's not doing too much. He's in a fight with Brandon Marshall, so I'm taking the Pats to cover 6.5.
And I'll get back. I'm going to take the Bears on that side of it because they're all over Cutler. I like teams that are in turmoil and they take it on the road and do the Bills a favor. I think the Bears are going to cover that 6.5 at New England.
Let's bet lunch on it then. Let's put something on it.
We'll talk about that later.
Okay.
Danny.
Mike told me before the show that it's a week-to-week NFL. That's how it goes. So I contacted DeTulio before the show. I like teams that get blown out, seem to play better the next week. So I'm going to take the Browns giving up 7 at home against Oakland.
That's a good pick. That's a good pick.
And what's Mike's pick?
And the crew's taking Arizona, giving 2.5 to
The Eagles.
The Eagles. Alrighty. Like it or not, we'll be back.
And you don't need to be Native American to realize it is offensive. And it's not politically correct. It's the right thing to do.
He was an idiot for throwing him that pitch. The guy's phenomenal. He had no reason to give him anything, especially a fastball to hit.
It's simply that these two guys, Ronaldo and Tom Brady, are too good looking.
I like it, just don't admit to it.
Everybody wants to hate on the best in the world. You know, he's here to stay, and he wants to build something big time.
The bottom line is, still nobody's going to like A-Rod.
Welcome back to the original Rochester Press Box, like it or not. Dan, Percy Harvin deconstruction.
You have to like it for the sense of the Jets. I think it's a decent pickup. You look at who Geno Smith's been throwing to. While that's not the whole problem, he's been throwing to Steve Hausmann, Dan Fetes, and Mike Catalana for the last year and a half. So he hasn't had a whole lot to work with. He's had David Nelson as his number 2 wide receiver. We've seen that Percy Harvin, when on the field and the ball in his hands, he's a playmaker. He can make things happen with the ball. Will there be enough time to install him into the game plan? I don't know. We'll have to see against the Bills, but I think that there's upside there with Harvin because he's still a talent.
Yeah. The deconstruction part is what gets me. I've never seen a guy torn apart like this by the team that's getting rid of him like this. I mean, Seattle just crushed him.
It's similar to Deshaun Jackson when he left the Eagles. And, there were some unnamed sources, and this came out, and that came out as he was a bad teammate and tied to gangs and all these other things. Honestly, there was a lot about Deshaun through the years. I never heard a word about Percy Harvin. I didn't know squat. The only thing I knew about him is he gets hurt a lot, and he had the migraines, right, with Percy Harvin. But I never knew he was considered bad teammate, bad guy. Then there's all of a sudden he gets traded, and there's a picture of Baldwin with a black eye from before the Super Bowl, and none of his teammates like him. That was a little, we kicked him out of the door, and now we're going to rip him on the way out.
Yeah,
At least
and the report that they would have cut him if they hadn't traded him.
And look what they paid dearly for him to get him.
Yeah.
A ton of draft picks.
A first rounder.
Yeah. But if Russell Wilson couldn't work with him, how's Geno Smith going to work with him?
Yeah, he made, I think, $700,000 a catch in Seattle because he made almost $18 million.
When I watched the Monday night game where he had the 3 touchdowns called back, I was playing against him on fantasy, so I won, but I couldn't imagine. He's not even on the field all that much. He's on the field only like 30% of the time.
He'll get more time with the Jets.
Stevie, how about, like it or not, Michael Sam getting cut by the Dallas Cowboys?
Yeah, the Dallas Cowboys, it certainly got buried. If it had happened 6 or 7 weeks ago, it would have been why? What are you thinking about doing? But, I mean, let's face it, I was doing a little research how when the draft came around this year, Michael Sam was considered irrelevant by many scouts. They didn't think he had any chance of making it. And it's not like Dallas is an outstanding defense. Their stats on both the run and the pass are kind of middle of the pack. So, I don't know if he had a place on this team, but I guess he had to go. Plain and simply.
But these guys, they don't do anything. I mean, it wouldn't have hurt Dallas to keep them. I mean, what do you have to do to get yourself run off the practice team?
Oh, that happens a lot, though. There are a lot of moves on and off a practice squad, and teams do it for different reasons. When they have depth at a certain position, they'll add a guy, they'll bring a guy back. I guess I would look at it and say this makes Michael Sam like a lot of other guys on a practice squad. This is what happens with a lot of players in the league. I really don't believe it has anything to do with Michael Sam of anything other than a football player. Because at this point, the other part has become, at least to most people, kind of a non-story. And if he could play, and this isn't saying he can't still be on another team. It just may take a little while. He may get on another practice squad or another team. But I think it's a football thing.
He wanted to be treated like every other player, and now he has been.
Yeah. Well, isn't it kind of interesting? I mean, he makes the announcement that I'm gay. The draft is coming up. There's all this stuff. The Rams pick him, and it just drops right off the chart.
And when it happened, I remember we talked about it here, and I said, it will be a big deal when it is a big-time player. Just like Collins, the guy, the NBA player. Nobody cares because he's a marginal player, which is what Michael Sam is. It's a big deal because of the announcement. When it's a big-time player, it will be a much bigger deal.
How far into your sportscast was it when
I had it in the show yesterday when it got cut.
Yeah.
I had it in and ended up dropping it for time. And honestly, it was... whereas 4 months ago, it would have been a lead story. But
to your point, when it becomes a big player, I think Michael Sam has made it easier for that guy.
Maybe.
I think it's going to be as big as it would have been had Michael Sam not come first.
Because now you're not talking about a relatively irrelevant player as a football player. You're talking about a player if it's a big-time guy.
And now it makes sense because all the talk before the draft was undersized, too slow, not strong enough. All that stuff went away, and he's still undersized, too slow, not strong enough to
and
play
not
line.
considered a great special teams player, which is key if you're going to be a backup.
Now, Mike, quickly, like it or not, this college football committee that's going to have to pick the 4 teams to play in the national championship.
Yeah, it's not an easy job. You're going to get criticized almost no matter who you pick, depending on what it is. And look what it's done. Archie Manning's out with an injury. Now, Archie Manning's on the committee. He's got a knee, he's got a problem. He had to sign off the committee. People are going to complain no matter what it is. I do not think they have an easy job. I'm glad that we have it because I'm glad we have a playoff. I wish it would go to 8 teams. I don't think I'd want to be on the committee, and I think after they got criticized for whatever they pick, a lot of those people
I'm
are
really
going to be on
curious
it
as how
either.
it's going to look going week to week, like they're going to do it.
Yeah.
I thought in December they'll get together, they pick the teams, and it's done. But they're going to go week to week and announce these things.
Transparency is what they want.
The first meeting is
They want everybody to know what's going on.
Yeah.
the first meeting is this week. I'm going to be interested to see what Condoleezza Rice has to say about all these. She's on the committee.
If we find out, because they don't have to
Yeah.
attribute any
Right.
of this. Unfinished business when we return. Welcome back. This is the original Rochester Press Box. It's time for Unfinished Business. Danny.
Bill, you took a shot at the NCAA last week for their character issues with the Heisman Trophy. Because I'm sitting in John DiTullio's seat, I'll take a shot this week. The NCAA's big problems. Players have been receiving improper benefits for quite some time. You look in recent years, it's been Reggie Bush, Cam Newton, Johnny Manziel, and this year, Jameis Winston, and also Heisman Trophy probable leader in Todd Gurley. Well, it even goes back to when SMU got the death penalty for Ponygate. All these things have been going on, and this week, former South Carolina quarterback Stephen Garcia weighed in. He says that everybody on his team was receiving money, and upwards of $160,000 worth of money. Now, if you don't know who Stephen Garcia is, that's okay. He didn't make a whole lot of news on the field. He made a lot more news off the field. In his career at South Carolina, he was suspended 3 times and eventually kicked off the team his senior year. He went undrafted, went to the CFL, and then the Arena Football League, which he was again suspended by the league and kicked out. So I don't think Stephen Garcia needs to be weighing in his options on what's right and wrong in the NCAA. The problem is that what the rule is. You're not allowed to receive improper benefits. You can't receive money for your likeness, your autographs, or your play on the field. And so it's a matter of black and white issue. There's no gray area. It's not for Stephen Garcia to decide. It's not for me to decide. It's not for you to decide. It's for the NCAA to decide. And they need to get this rule right, and they need to get it right in a hurry.
Thank you, John.
Go Penn State.
Yeah, that's it.
Stevie, what do you got?
When I was here last, it was 7 weeks ago, I told the story about how my wife is now a runner. She ran her first 5K when she had never run before. I was very proud of her. Now, my running experience is when I played on the radio station softball team, running from home plate to first base, and that only happened a couple times a game, and when I did make it to first, I got a pinch runner. But I am now a runner, believe it or not. I'm following Julie, convinced me if she can do it, I can do it. I can now run to the point where I am going to run a 5K on December 20th. December 20th, I'm going to, and that's huge. I can't wait to cross the finish line with my wife.
And your progress to this point?
Well, today I will be, as soon as we finish here, I'm going to go out. It's a walk to run program. We're going to do a 40-minute segment, 3 minutes of walking, a minute and a half of running. Then it's 6 times. So I'm going to do a minute and a half of running 6 times today. And eventually, yeah, I feel good about it.
We're all behind you.
Congrats.
I haven't lost an ounce, but hopefully that'll come.
All righty. Thanks,
Yeah.
Steve.
All right, sounds good. All right, much like my friends to the right and the left, 40 years ago, the New York Yankees broke my heart. It's happened to them many times as Red Sox fans. It was 40 years ago this week that the Yankees traded my all-time favorite player, Bobby Mercer. When I was a kid and a Yankee fan, the Yankees were awful. They had one thing going for them. They had Bobby Mercer. And I was 11 years old. I remember it like it was yesterday. I was at football practice with my friends. This is the pre-ESPN ticker internet world. And my friend told me the Yankees traded Bobby Mercer. I didn't want to believe it. I love Bobby Mercer. There's nothing like that feeling when you are a kid the first athlete that you connect with. He had the cool hair. He played center field for the Yankees. He was awesome. Now, Bobby Bonds is a great talent, great player. Barry Bonds' father, all that's being said. Bobby Mercer was the guy. Years later, I actually got to interview him once. Awesome man who we lost too soon. But I feel badly for kids now because I don't know if it's quite the same thing, that connection you have with an athlete like it was back then. I remember Bobby Mercer, fond memories. The Yankees broke my heart, but at least they brought him back for the end of his career.
Yeah, the whole announcing thing, a whole new generation got to know Bobby Mercer.
He was awesome.
Alrighty, I maintain that, and none of you guys can argue with me because none of you saw this,
Okay.
that Mayo Smith is the best all-time manager in a World Series event. 1968 Detroit Tigers. Mayo Smith is managing against the Bob Gibson St. Louis Cardinals, and he's got an underdog team, very good team, but an underdog team. He needs more hitting, so he puts his starting center fielder in at shortstop, plays him for the entire series there. He has Denny McClain as his ace, a 31-game winner and Cy Young Award winner. He goes up against Bob Gibson and loses badly twice. So Mayo Smith bumps his number 2 starter up ahead of the Cy Young Award winner to pitch Game 7 on less rest, and Mickey Lolich pitched his 3rd straight complete game and beat Bob Gibson in Game 7 of that series. 1968 was the very last year that we had a pure World Series, when the first-place team in the 10-team American League played the first-place team in the 10-team National League. And 1968 was a very good year for baseball. The original Rochester Press Box airs every Saturday night and then again on Sunday at 11:30 on Fox and 13 WHAM TV, preceding coverage of the NFL. It's an easy time to watch, and we appreciate it when you do. Dan Fetes, nice job.
Thank you.
Sitting in for John, making his picks.
There it is.
Mike Catalana, great as always.
Thank you.
Steve, good luck with the running. Nice to have you back.
I'll let you know.
All righty.
Always great to be here, guys.
Then we'll go out and cover that.
We get there first.
Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week on the original Rochester Press Box.